The crystal spires of Nexus Prime rose like frozen fountains against the perpetual violet sky. The headquarters of the Galaxy Council, with its translucent walls and impossible architecture, had been designed to inspire awe and submission. For most species, it succeeded, but not for humans. Ambassador Elena Reyes walked briskly through the grand atrium. Her formal diplomatic attire, midnight blue with silver trim, flowing behind her as junior aides struggled to keep pace. Her face revealed nothing, but her mind calculated every scenario, every variable, every potential outcome of what would happen in the next few hours. The annual session begins in 20 minutes. Ambassador, her chief aide whispered. Prime Minister Vexel has already taken his position. The procedural vote is expected to go as usual. As usual, Elena repeated, her voice flat. Meaning our voting seal will be diminished again, our trade routes restricted further, and our resource taxes increased by what percentage this cycle? Preliminary discussions suggest 8%. Elena stopped walking. The delegation behind her nearly collided into one another at the sudden halt. 8. Not even trying to hide their contempt anymore. She turned to face her team. Remember your instructions. No matter what happens in that chamber, follow the protocol exactly as we discussed. The massive doors to the council chamber parted, revealing a vast hemispheric room. 217 species were represented, their delegations arranged in concentric circles around the central podium. Humans, despite being responsible for nearly 30% of the council's defense budget and 40% of its technological innovations, were seated in the fourth ring, a deliberate placement meant to signify their emerging status. Prime Minister Vexel, a tall, willowy being with iridescent skin that shifted between deep blues and greens, acknowledged Elena's arrival with the barest incline of his elongated head. His six-fingered hands rested on the ceremonial staff of unity, a symbol that had become increasingly hollow over the decades. The council recognizes the human delegation, Vexal announced, his voice carrying the musical tones characteristic of the Axioni species. We welcome your participation in this, our 743rd annual gathering. Elena took her designated seat, noting how the cushion had been adjusted to be slightly lower than those of neighboring delegations. Another petty reminder. Thank you, Prime Minister. The people of Earth and all human colonies extend their greetings. Her response was formal, practiced, and revealed nothing of what was to come. The session began with the usual procedural matters. Reports from various committees, updates on joint security operations, resource allocation proposals. Through it all, Elena remained attentive but distant, offering minimal comments. Several council members noted her unusual reserve, but attributed it to human unpredictability, one of many traits for which the species was both valued and mistrusted. 3 hours into the session, during a particularly tedious debate on neutrino harvesting regulations, Elena's personal communication device vibrated against her wrist. A simple message appeared. Protocol Sunflower initiated. She closed her eyes briefly, took a measured breath, and then pressed a small button concealed in her ceremonial collar. Throughout the chamber, similar notifications reached every human present, from diplomatic staff to security personnel, from scientific advisors to maintenance workers. In perfect synchronization, all humans stood. The debate faltered, voices trailing off as confusion spread through the chamber. Prime Minister Vexel looked up, momentarily startled by the unprecedented breach of protocol. Ambassador Reyes, the human delegation has not been recognized to speak, he said, irritation evident in his tone. Please resume your... The people of Earth and all human territories hereby inform the Galaxy Council that all diplomatic channels are suspended, effective immediately, Elena announced, her voice clear and unwavering. All human representatives, all human forces, all human participation in council activities ceases as of this moment. Murmurs erupted throughout the chamber. Vexal rose to his full height, towering nearly 3 meters above the podium. "This is most irregular, Ambassador. If Earth has grievances, there are proper channels. All communications with human worlds and outposts are hereby terminated." Elena continued, as if he hadn't spoken. "Any approach to human space will be considered a hostile action. There will be no further dialogue until conditions acceptable to humanity are established." With that, every human in the chamber turned and began walking toward the exits. Security forces, primarily Andromedan and Regalian, moved uncertainly, looking to their commanders for instructions. None came. No one had anticipated this scenario. "This is outrageous," Vexal's voice boomed. "Ambassador Reyes, return to your position immediately or face censure." Elena paused at the threshold of the massive doorway, turned, and looked directly at the Prime Minister. "We have been censured, restricted, taxed, and marginalized for 87 years, despite contributing more to Council defense and research than any 3 species combined. Your censure means nothing to us now." She glanced around the chamber. "To those who have been our true allies, you know who you are. What comes next will not harm you. To the rest, I suggest you reconsider your positions." With that, she departed, the last human to leave the chamber. Behind her, chaos erupted as hundreds of diplomats shouted questions, accusations, and expressions of disbelief. Prime Minister Vexal slammed the Staff of Unity against the podium 3 times. The traditional call for order. The noise subsided gradually. "An unfortunate display of human emotional instability," he announced with forced calm. "We will continue our session. The humans will return when they realize the impossibility of their position." But even as he spoke, reports began flooding in from across Nexus Prime and beyond. Human security forces were evacuating their embassy. Human merchants were closing their trading posts. Human ships were disengaging from docking stations throughout Council space. The humans were not making a statement. They were executing a plan. The aftermath was immediate and far-reaching. Within hours, the Council's central communication hub reported that all direct channels to Earth and human colonies had gone silent. Attempts to route messages through intermediary systems failed. Monitoring stations tracking human fleet movements showed all vessels retreating to human-controlled space at maximum speed. By the following morning, an emergency session had been called. The Council chamber, usually a model of order and decorum, had descended into something approaching pandemonium. "3 major development projects have halted entirely," shouted the representative from Delton, a small, mining-focused world. "The human engineers simply walked off. Our entire northern continent infrastructure upgrade is now sitting unfinished and inoperable. 17 cargo vessels carrying critical medical supplies are stranded in the Proxima transfer stations," added another delegate. "The human navigators who plotted their courses through the quantum eddies have disappeared. None of our pilots can interpret their navigation matrices. Our defense systems are showing cascading failures across 3 sectors," reported General Korv, the stern Andromedan military commander. "The human technicians who maintain the quantum barrier network are gone. My engineers report the systems are showing error messages they've never seen before." Prime Minister Vexal raised his hands, calling for calm. "These disruptions, while inconvenient, will be temporary. The humans are simply demonstrating to feel important. They will return when their emotional outburst has run its course." "With respect, Prime Minister," interjected Representative Rylan of Delton, one of the smallest council members. "This does not appear to be an emotional outburst. This appears to be a carefully orchestrated withdrawal. My sources indicate this action was synchronized across over 700 locations simultaneously." Vexal's skin darkened slightly, a sign of annoyance among his species. "Are you suggesting, Representative, that humans are capable of such coordination? A species known for their internal disagreements and chaotic governance? I am suggesting, Rylan replied carefully, that we may have misunderstood them fundamentally. Back on Earth, in a facility buried deep beneath what had once been the Antarctic ice sheet, now a verdant forest due to climate engineering, Dr. Haru Mendoza stood before a wall of holographic displays. Each showed a different aspect of what was now being called Operation Independence. Stage 1 complete, reported his chief assistant. Total communications blackout achieved. All human personnel successfully withdrawn from Council space. Defense perimeter established along all approach vectors. Haru nodded, his eyes never leaving the central display, which showed a complex network of energy pathways, gradually coming online. Decades of secret development were about to be tested. Begin Stage 2, he ordered. Activate the Alliance network. Across human space, concealed transmitters hummed to life. The technology, a revolutionary approach to quantum entanglement that allowed instantaneous communication without detectable signals, had been humanity's most closely guarded secret. While the Council believed humans were merely competent technicians helping maintain existing systems, in reality, they had been building something entirely new. Network activation at 20% and rising, reported the system operator, receiving acknowledgement signals from all human outposts. Haru allowed himself a small smile. And our allies. The Deltan encryption key has been activated. They're connecting now. Proxima and Ceretian representatives are requesting access protocols. Provide them. Any word from the Andromedan military faction? General Korv's private channel remains open but inactive. He's watching, but not committing yet. Haru nodded. It was as they had predicted. The smaller, more marginalized species would come aboard first. The military powers would wait to see if the human gambit succeeded. How long until the Council realizes what we've done? Asked his assistant. They still think this is a tantrum, Haru replied. By the time they understand it's a revolution, it will be too late. 3 days into the human withdrawal, the first major crisis hit the Galaxy Council. A coordinated attack by space pirates on a major trade route left 7 cargo vessels destroyed and 3 space stations damaged. The Council's defense forces, normally supplemented by human tactical advisors and technicians, responded slowly and ineffectively. An emergency security session was convened, with General Korv providing a grim assessment. The attackers knew exactly when and where our patrol patterns had gaps, he reported. They exploited weaknesses in our sensor network that appeared after the human technicians departed. We were blind in precisely the sectors they chose to strike. Are you suggesting human involvement in these attacks, General? Prime Minister Vexal asked sharply. No, Prime Minister. I am stating that without human support, our security systems are not functioning at capacity. The pirates simply noticed our vulnerability before we did. This is becoming intolerable, Vexal said, his skin now a dark blue bordering on black. We must re-establish contact with the humans and demand they fulfill their council obligations. With respect, interjected Representative Rylan, what leverage do we propose to use? We cannot force them to communicate. We have many options, Vexal replied coldly. Economic sanctions, restricted travel rights, if necessary, military pressure on their outer colonies. A murmur ran through the chamber. Even suggesting military action against a council member was unprecedented. I strongly advise against any show of force, General Korv said immediately. My analysis suggests the humans have been understating their military capabilities for decades. We do not know what defenses they might have in place. Are we to be held hostage by their absence? Then, Vexal demanded. Allow critical systems to fail? Allow pirates to ravage our trade routes? Perhaps, offered the representative from Proxima, we should consider what the humans actually want. Vexal turned to the speaker. They have not stated any demands. They have simply abandoned their responsibilities. That itself may be the message, Ryland suggested. For years, they have requested equal representation, fair taxation, and full voting rights. Perhaps they grew tired of asking. This discussion is pointless without communication, Vexel declared. Ambassador Reyes left no channel open. In the silence that followed, a junior aide approached General Corv and whispered something. The Andromedan's expression, normally stoic, showed surprise. Prime Minister, I have just been informed that a signal has been detected. It appears to be originating from Earth. But it's unlike any communication protocol we've encountered before. Put it through, Vexol ordered. The central display in the chamber activated, showing only a simple text message. To Galaxy Council, Security Committee from Earth Alliance Command Pirate activity in Orion Sector. Attached, defense system patch to address vulnerabilities in Orion Sector. Note, this is a one-way transmission. Do not attempt to trace or respond. Below the message was a complex code sequence, precisely the patch needed to close the security gap the pirates had exploited. They're monitoring the situation, General Corv said quietly. They know exactly what's happening. And they're helping selectively, added Rylan. Interesting. Vexel's skin had turned almost black with suppressed rage. They play games while the Council faces crisis. This is unacceptable. Yet they provided exactly what we needed, Corv pointed out. Should we use the patch? Of course we should use it, Vexol snapped. But this does not change our position. The humans must return to the Council and resume their proper role. As the days stretched into weeks, a pattern emerged. Critical systems throughout Council space experienced failures or vulnerabilities. In each case, anonymous patches or solutions would appear, transmitted through untraceable channels. Always helpful, always precise, and always one way. Meanwhile, reports began to circulate of a new communication network spreading through the galaxy. Smaller worlds like Delton and Proxima suddenly seemed better informed and coordinated than they had ever been. When questioned about this development, their representatives became evasive. In her private office on Earth, Ambassador Elena Reyes reviewed the daily reports with satisfaction. The Alliance network had now reached 67 non-human worlds, mostly smaller, less influential council members who had long chafed under the dominance of the founding species. General Corv has requested a private channel 3 times now. Her aide reported, "He's being very careful to keep it unofficial." "Let him wait another day," Elena replied. "When we do respond, make sure he understands our terms are non-negotiable." The Proxima delegation has formally requested Alliance membership. That makes 17 official requests this week. Elena nodded. Process them all. Priority access to those who publicly declare their support. And the Council's official communications. Continue to ignore them. Until Vexol is ready to meet as equals, we have nothing to discuss. Her communication panel chimed with a priority signal from Dr. Mendoza's facility. "Ambassador!" Haru's voice came through, excitement evident despite his usually calm demeanor. "The final phase of the network is ready. We can proceed with the broadcast whenever you give the word." Elena took a deep breath. This was the moment they had been working toward for decades, the culmination of a plan conceived by her predecessor and developed in absolute secrecy. "Schedule it for tomorrow's Council emergency session. Make sure every world with Alliance access will receive it simultaneously." "It will be done." The emergency session had been called to address the growing crisis in interstellar commerce. Without human navigators to plot courses through the more dangerous regions of space, trade had slowed to a crawl. Shortages were being reported on dozens of worlds. The economic impact was becoming severe. Prime Minister Vexel had just begun outlining a new emergency measure, essentially the conscription of navigators from smaller worlds to replace the humans, when every communication device in the chamber activated simultaneously. On every screen, Ambassador Elena Reyes appeared, seated at a simple desk with the Earth Alliance emblem behind her. Greetings to all members of the Galaxy Council, she began, her voice calm and measured. I apologize for interrupting your session, but what I have to say concerns every world represented there. Vexel, momentarily stunned by the unprecedented breach of Council communication systems, quickly recovered. Shut this down, he ordered the security team. Cut the transmission! They cannot, Elena continued, as if she had heard him. For the first time, I am speaking to you through the Alliance Network, a communication system that cannot be blocked, traced, or intercepted. Every world connected to this network is now hearing my words directly, without the Council's filtering or editing. Murmurs spread through the chamber as the implications became clear. For 87 years, humanity has contributed to the Galaxy Council. We have provided technological expertise, military support, and economic resources far beyond our assigned quota. In return, we have been denied equal representation, subjected to punitive taxation, and treated as second-class members. She leaned forward slightly, her gaze seeming to meet that of every being watching. Today, I am authorized to announce that humanity will no longer accept this arrangement. We do not seek to disrupt or damage the galactic community, as evidenced by our continued support for critical systems. But we will no longer participate in a structure that relegates us to subordinate status. Vexal finally found his voice. This transmission is illegal under Council law. Ambassador Reyes, you are hereby... To those worlds who have already joined the Alliance Network, Elena continued, ignoring the interruption. We thank you for your courage. To those considering it, know that membership comes with full access to human technological assistance, defense cooperation, and fair trade agreements, with no taxation beyond actual administrative costs. She paused, allowing the offer to register. To the Council leadership, our terms are simple: equal representation for all member worlds, regardless of how long they have been part of the interstellar community. One world, one vote, transparent governance, an end to the tiered membership system that has allowed the founding species to dominate for centuries. The chamber had fallen completely silent, every delegate transfixed by the transmission. You have 48 hours to respond. After that time, the Alliance will begin formal operations as an alternative to the Council structure. The choice of which organization to belong to will be left to each world to decide for itself. With that, the transmission ended, leaving the chamber in stunned silence. Prime Minister Vexel was the first to recover. This is rebellion! They propose to dismantle the very foundation of galactic stability. They propose equality, Rylan countered. And they have clearly been planning this for years. We must respond with strength, Vexal insisted. I propose an immediate military blockade of human space. General Korv rose from his seat. Prime Minister, I must formally advise against any military action. My intelligence indicates that human defensive capabilities have been significantly underestimated. Furthermore, I have just received word that 17 Council member worlds have already publicly declared support for this alliance. 17? Vexal's skin had gone almost white, a sign of shock among his species. Which ones? Delton, Proxima, Ceresia. The general began listing names. All were smaller, less influential worlds. But together, they represented nearly a quarter of the Council's total membership. This cannot stand, Vexal declared. We must act decisively. But even as he spoke, more reports were coming in. The Alliance Network had gone fully public. Worlds throughout Council space were connecting to it, discovering communication capabilities far beyond what the Council had ever provided. Information was flowing freely, without the careful curation and control that had been standard practice for centuries. The revolution had begun not with weapons, but with words. In the Antarctic facility, Dr. Haru Mendoza watched as the network map expanded exponentially. New nodes appeared by the minute as more worlds connected. Defense systems holding steady, reported his chief security officer. No indication of Council military movement toward human space. They're too smart for that, Haru replied. Or rather, General Korv is too smart. He's been quietly supportive of our position for years. Ambassador Reyes's broadcast has been viewed on over 300 worlds. Response is overwhelmingly positive, especially on Tier 3 and Tier 4 worlds. Haru nodded, unsurprised. The Council's hierarchical structure had created deep resentments among the newer or smaller member worlds. Humanity had simply provided an alternative, and done so at precisely the right moment. Any official response from the Council yet? Nothing formal, but our sources report intense debate. The founding species are divided on how to respond. And Vexal? Still advocating for a hard line, but he's losing support by the hour. Haru allowed himself a small smile. Then we proceed as planned. Begin transitioning Alliance members to the Enhanced Defense Network. The next 48 hours saw a fundamental reshaping of galactic politics. 29 more worlds formally declared their intention to join the Alliance. Council authority began to crumble as member worlds simply stopped complying with directives from Nexus Prime. Most significantly, the space pirates who had been exploiting the security gaps suddenly found themselves facing a new, far more effective defense system. Alliance ships, a mixture of human vessels and those from allied worlds, responded to attacks with unprecedented coordination and effectiveness. When the deadline arrived, Ambassador Elena Reyes once again addressed the galaxy through the Alliance network. "The Council's silence has been noted," she began. "Therefore, as of this moment, the Earth Alliance formally establishes itself as an independent galactic organization, open to all worlds who seek equal partnership in interstellar affairs." She outlined the basic structure of the Alliance, a simple, yet revolutionary approach where each member world would have one vote, regardless of size, military power, or economic influence. Administrative costs would be shared proportionally, based on actual usage of Alliance services. "We do not seek conflict with the Council," she emphasized. "Worlds may choose to maintain membership in both organizations if they wish. Our goal is not destruction, but construction of a more equitable galactic community." The response was immediate. Another wave of worlds announced their intention to join the Alliance. More surprisingly, several prominent Council officials resigned their positions and offered their services to the new organization. Faced with this unprecedented situation, Prime Minister Vexal finally requested direct communication with Ambassador Reyes. The meeting took place in neutral space, a small, uninhabited planet equidistant from Earth and Nexus Prime. Elena arrived with a minimal delegation, herself, Dr. Mendoza, and 2 security officers. Vexal brought a full diplomatic contingent, including General Korv, whose presence raised eyebrows among the human team. "Ambassador Reyes," Vexal began formally, his skin a carefully maintained calm blue. "The Council recognizes that recent events have created misunderstandings between our organizations." "There is no misunderstanding, Prime Minister," Elena replied. "Humanity simply decided to stop accepting second-class status. The Council system has maintained peace and stability for over 1,000 years, Vexal countered. "Your alliance threatens to destabilize that achievement." "Peace for whom? Stability at whose expense?" Elena asked. "The founding species have enjoyed privileges while newer members provide resources and labor without equal voice." "That is the natural order," Vexal said dismissively. "Those who built the Council earned their position. And those positions became permanent, regardless of current contributions." Elena leaned forward. "That is exactly the problem, Prime Minister." General Korv, who had been silent until now, spoke up. "If I may, Prime Minister, the ambassador's point has merit. The Council's fixed hierarchy has created resentments that have been simmering for centuries. The humans have simply provided an alternative model that addresses those concerns." Vexal's skin darkened slightly as he turned to the general. Your perspective is noted, General. However, the security implications are considerable, Korv interrupted. But not in the way you suggest. My analysis indicates that the Alliance Defense Network is already more effective than the Council's. The recent pirate incursions were neutralized in hours, not days. Vexal fell silent, recognizing the shift in the conversation. He was losing control not just of the galactic political situation, but of his own delegation. What exactly do you propose, Ambassador? He finally asked. A complete restructuring of the Council, Elena replied without hesitation. Equal voting rights for all member worlds, transparent governance, fair taxation based on ability to pay, not arbitrary tiers. Impossible, Vexal said flatly. The founding worlds would never accept such terms. Then they will watch as their influence diminishes while the alliance grows. Elena said simply. Already, 47 council worlds have joined us. How many must leave before the council becomes irrelevant? The question hung in the air, unanswered. This conversation is premature, Vexal finally said. I must consult with the founding worlds. Of course, Elena agreed. But understand this. Prime Minister, the old system is already collapsing. The choice now is whether the Council will evolve or become obsolete. As Vexal and his delegation departed, General Korv lingered behind for a moment. Impressive strategy, Ambassador, he said quietly. You've achieved in weeks what many thought impossible. Thank you, General. Will you be joining us officially now? Korv's expression remained carefully neutral. My position requires me to remain with the Council for now, but should circumstances change. He left the sentence unfinished. We'll leave a channel open for you, Elena assured him. Over the following weeks, the galaxy watched as power shifted irreversibly. The alliance grew to include over 100 worlds, with more joining daily. The Council, once the unchallenged authority in interstellar affairs, found itself increasingly marginalized. Prime Minister Vexal fought desperately to maintain the old order, proposing minimal reforms that preserved the founding species' privileges. But it was too late. The momentum had shifted decisively. The final blow came when the Axioni homeworld, Vexal's own species, announced it would join the alliance while maintaining its council membership. The Prime Minister resigned the following day. 3 months after humanity's withdrawal from the Council, representatives from over 200 worlds gathered on Earth for the formal establishment of the Democratic Galactic Alliance. The ceremony took place in a vast open-air amphitheater built specifically for the occasion, with each world's delegation seated in a perfect circle, symbolizing the equality at the heart of the new organization. Ambassador Elena Reyes, elected as interim chairperson, addressed the historic gathering. Today marks not an ending, but a beginning, she declared. For too long, the stars have been divided by artificial hierarchies and ancient privileges. Today, we establish a new principle, that all sentient species, regardless of their history, technology, or military power, deserve an equal voice in our shared future. The applause that followed came from beings of hundreds of different species, each with their own history, biology, and culture. Yet, in that moment, they were united by a common vision. As the ceremony concluded, Dr. Haru Mendoza approached Elena. Congratulations, Chairperson, he said with a smile. Operation Independence exceeded even our most optimistic projections. We couldn't have done it without the network, Elena acknowledged. Your team's work made all of this possible. Technology was just the tool, Haru replied. It was your strategy, withdrawing completely rather than continuing to fight within their system, that caught them off guard. They never imagined we would simply walk away. Sometimes the most powerful statement is silence, Elena said. But now comes the hard part. building something that actually lives up to our promises. And the council? Elena glanced toward the delegation from Nexus Prime, now led by Representative Rylan of Delton, who had been appointed interim council coordinator. They'll adapt or fade away. Either way, the galaxy will never return to the old system. As twilight fell over the gathering, the first stars became visible in Earth's sky. Once distant and unreachable, they now represented homes and allies in a community built on equality rather than dominance. Humanity had not conquered the stars. They had connected them. In his private quarters on Nexus Prime, former Prime Minister Vexel stood at the window, gazing out at the crystalline spires that had once symbolized unassailable power. Now, they seemed fragile, almost ephemeral in the fading light. "How did we not see it coming?" he asked the empty room. "How did we miss the signs?" But he knew the answer. The council had become so accustomed to its own superiority that it had failed to recognize the quiet revolution building beneath the surface. They had dismissed humans as technologically useful, but politically naive, never imagining that this supposedly emotional, divided species was capable of such patient, methodical planning. A chime announced a visitor. The door slid open to reveal General Korv. "You've accepted the Alliance position," Vexel said. It wasn't a question. "I have," Korv confirmed. "I'll be coordinating the integration of defense systems." "You betrayed the Council." "I chose the future over the past," Korv corrected. "As have most of our colleagues." Vexel turned back to the window. "Do you really believe their model can work? Equal voice for all worlds, regardless of contribution or capability?" "I believe it's worth trying," Korv replied. "The old system served its purpose for a time, but that time has passed." "And what becomes of those like me? Those who built the Council?" "That depends on you," Korv said simply. "The Alliance has extended membership to all, even the most privileged under the old system. But you must come as equals, not superiors." Vexal was silent for a long moment. "I'm not sure I know how to do that." "Then perhaps it's time to learn," Korv suggested. "The humans did, after all. Despite their significant contributions, they worked within our system for decades, trying to earn what should have been theirs by right." "Until they didn't," Vexal noted. "Until they didn't," Korv agreed. "That was their true revolution. Not the technology or the Alliance, but the willingness to walk away and build something better." After the general departed, Vexal remained at the window, watching as lights came on throughout the great complex that had been the center of galactic governance for a millennium. Many offices now stood empty, their occupants having departed for Earth or other Alliance worlds. The transition was happening faster than anyone had anticipated. Already, Joint Council Alliance committees were being formed to address the most pressing interstellar issues. Trade routes were being re-established under new protocols. Defense systems were being integrated. And through it all, the Alliance network continued to expand, connecting worlds that had previously communicated only through Council-controlled channels. Information flowed freely, unfiltered by bureaucratic oversight. Ideas spread, collaborations formed. It was, Vexel had to admit, a new kind of order. Whether it would prove more stable or just than the system it replaced remained to be seen. But one thing was certain. The galaxy had changed irrevocably. In her new office overlooking the Earth Alliance headquarters, Chairperson Elena Reyes reviewed reports from across the galaxy. The transition was proceeding remarkably smoothly, with only minor disruptions to essential services. The network was performing beyond expectations, facilitating coordination between worlds that had previously barely acknowledged each other's existence. "Incoming transmission from Delton," her aide announced. "Representative Rylan requests a moment of your time." "Put him through," Elena instructed. Rylan's image appeared, his small, rodent-like features arranged in what Elena had learned to recognize as a smile. "Chairperson, I bring good news. The Council Reform Act has passed, effective immediately, All remaining council worlds will adopt the one world, one vote system. That's excellent news, Representative. I hadn't expected it so soon. Nor had I, Rylan admitted. But once the Axioni joined the Alliance, the remaining founding species saw the writing on the wall. They've chosen to adapt, rather than become irrelevant. And Vexal? He's stepped down completely. There are rumors he may seek a position within the Alliance structure, though not in leadership. Elena nodded thoughtfully. If he's willing to work as an equal, we can certainly use his experience. After concluding the call, Elena sat back in her chair, allowing herself a moment of reflection. The plan, conceived decades ago by her mentor and refined over years of careful preparation, had succeeded beyond their most optimistic projections. What they had anticipated might take years had been accomplished in months. Yet, she knew this was just the beginning. Building a truly equitable interstellar community would require ongoing vigilance, adaptation, and commitment. The temptation to recreate hierarchies, to establish new forms of privilege, would always be present. But for the first time, the framework existed for genuine cooperation across species, cultures, and worlds. The Alliance Network provided not just communication but connection, a shared space where ideas could flow freely, where problems could be addressed collectively, where the contributions of all could be recognized and valued. A soft chime indicated another incoming message. This one was from Dr. Mendoza, currently overseeing the expansion of the network to the galaxy's outer regions. Phase 3 complete, the message read. All former Council worlds now connected. Network stability at 99.8%. Ready to begin implementation of the cultural exchange protocols whenever you give the word. Elena smiled. The next stage of the revolution was ready to begin. Not a political or technological transformation, but a cultural one. With the barriers to communication removed, species that had been isolated or marginalized under the Council system would now be able to share their perspectives, their art, their philosophies. Proceed, she authorized. And Doctor, thank you, for everything. As the sun set over the Alliance headquarters, Elena stood at her window, watching the stars emerge one by one. Each point of light represented not just a distant sun, but a world of beings now connected to Earth and to each other in ways that had never before been possible. The Galaxy Council had not been destroyed. It had been transformed. And in that transformation lay the hope for a future where the stars would unite rather than divide, where the vast distances between worlds would be bridged not just by ships and signals, but by understanding and respect. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy. They had connected it, and in doing so, they had finally found their true place among the stars, not as rulers or servants, but as equals in the great community of sentient beings that spread across the cosmic sea. The revolution was complete, and the real work was just beginning.